Okay, hello everybody. My name's Keith Brown. I'm based at the University of Bath, and unfortunately my colleagues Julie and Albert couldn't make it today. They're academics. I'm not. I'm a learning technologist, but in terms of the kind of learning and technology, then I guess that I'm 95% technology and 5% learning. So, but that enables me to do things. So I'm good at software and I can make things. So recently I built an app called Study Space. This is what it looks like. It's available for iOS, Android, and for the web app as well. So this is a project that I guess I started about 18 months ago. The original idea was around real-time feedback for a unit. So I don't know about you, but at my institution we do end-of-unit evaluations. And I kind of thought, well, why don't we do it in real time? Because if there are any issues, we can actually fix them as we go along. So that's the original concept. It's kind of changed since then. After sort of multiple conversations with students, it seemed like a kind of social media platform may be more appropriate to them. So that's kind of what I built, basically. The ethos of Study Space was really all about what students want. So what I didn't build was an institutional system that was in the interest of the institution or academics. What I built basically was what students asked for. So students were very much involved in the development process. You can see here some images that illustrate that point. So this was a cohort of students, about 30 students, doing an MSc in Innovation and Technology Management, and this particular session was around software development. So not only did the students use the app for a community to connect and collaborate, but they also had the opportunity to pull it apart and come up with some ideas for future enhancements. And here you can see some of the features that they suggested. So there's things like push notifications, hashtags. They wanted a Chinese version, a discussion board in there, and such like. So that's very much been the ethos for the app. So when I first started, I did identify some barriers using mainstream social media. So basically, after conversations with students, there was a perception by some students that they didn't want to use mainstream social media like Facebook for their personal life. So, for example, they'd be sitting in the pub in the evening and getting push notifications from Facebook to say a student has posted something on the Facebook channel, but it was unwelcome. So they really wanted something that was oriented around their work. The other issue was an impact on the digital identity of the students. So basically, I'm in the Department of Pharmacy and Pharmacology, and there was concern by pharmacy students about posting things on mainstream social media like Facebook and Twitter, because they kind of thought it might come back and bite them later on. So for example, in 5 years down the road, an employer might be researching them for a job and find something that may be embarrassing for the student. I think this may be particularly relevant for students in pharmacy. But anyway, those were the barriers that were identified. So the way forward, it seemed to be to actually build a completely new type of social media platform, a kind of internal system. So where the data is located on internal University of Bath servers, and the possibility of making anonymous posts. So this is what it looks like. It's an internal social media type of app. The way to think about it is really as a supplement to the VLE. So we're not trying to replace the VLE here, but it's just like an augmentation. It's an additional resource that offers privacy and anonymous postings. And in fact, in our trials, we did find that most students decided to post anonymously, kind of for the obvious reasons, really, so they could ask those stupid questions and wouldn't feel embarrassed by doing so. So the first trial ran mid-February to mid-May of this year. It was run with a cohort of second-year pharmacy students, and basically what happened, about 60% of them engaged with it, which I thought was pretty good for a kind of optional component. The actual access to the app was limited to the students on that particular unit, plus the 2 academics who were involved with teaching on it. So basically what students can do, they can post, they can vote, they can answer questions, and they can engage in competitions. Academics can do all those things, but they can also create quizzes, competitions as well. Basically what it is just a timeline of posts. So this is pretty much like Twitter or anything else. So basically it's a forum. So you can envisage study space as a forum, but it's available in an app format. So it's possibly it's easier for students to engage with. In this particular example, you can see that students were asking questions and the academics were answering them. So that's kind of how it all started. But what we found as time went on was that students actually started to answer other students' questions, which was really the whole point of it. It was all about establishing a kind of a community where students could collaborate and help each other. As you can see, there's some arrows on the right-hand side, and it's possible to up and down vote any posts. The other things that an academic can do is create voting competitions and quizzes. So at the top of the screen there is a voting competition, and at the bottom of the screen there is a question. So you can see the V flag at the top there to denote a voting competition, a Q for a quiz. And if we just look at those in a little bit more detail. This is an example from the pilot, where my colleague Julie is saying, did you enjoy the format of my last 2 lectures? And the bar chart there shows the actual results. So in the latest version, I actually put in the bar chart. So at the time of the pilot, that was not available. But since then, we've tried it with other units, and I've actually used it myself. And so this kind of that means that the app is also an audience response system that can be used live in class. The other thing that it's possible to do is to create a voting competition, and in this example my colleague Julie is saying, what would you like me to cover in revision lecture next week? And you can see here that the idea that had the most votes was a clicker quiz. So you could use this type of thing for your start, stop, continue type of activities. Okay, so the results from the first pilot, which ran earlier this year, this is the unit convener, my colleague Albert, and he's saying these kind of things. So he's saying basically it's a good way to engage with students outside of the lecture theatre, and it enables academics to monitor how well students have understood the taught material. It's also easy to use, and importantly, Albert, after conversations with him, said it actually reduces his workload. So instead of getting the same question multiple times from students, he can answer the question once and all the students can see it. So I thought that was kind of quite an interesting result. And it's quite rare these days to find a bit of technology that actually reduces an academic's workload. The students really liked the app. So they found it convenient, easy to use. It helped support their learning. They thought it was a good way to kind of collaborate and help each other. This is based on a survey with around 24 students who answered the survey questionnaire. So it was about 140 students on that unit, around 80 or so engaged, and 24 actually responded to the questionnaire. So it's quite a small sample really. Okay, so one of the questions on the questionnaire was what were the most useful things about the app in terms of your learning, and you can see there's a ton of stuff there. I'm not going to read all that out, but you can see that it's kind of some good stuff going on there, and they did feel that it did help them support their learning. I'm going to put this this presentation on SlideShare probably tomorrow and make this available so you can look at this in your leisure. Okay, so the current status is, based on the success of that first pilot, I've had quite a lot of interest from academics across the university. I've also had a lot of interest from FE colleges as well, who are kind of, one of whom is quite desperate to actually get hold of this app at the moment. So I produced version 2, and this is currently being trialled across the university. So we have about 25 channels, around 11 units, and it's also being used for what we call the SSLC, and that's the Staff Student Liaison Committee. So there's around a total of around sort of 500 students that are in the database at the moment. And it must be said that some of those channels have not worked very well, but some of them have worked absolutely fantastically. And what it comes down to in the end is how well the academic kind of pushes the app. So if I create an app, if I create the channel on the request of an academic, and they don't do anything with it, then clearly it will fail. But if they actually engage with it and give reasons for the students to actually install the app, for example, they may say, I promise that any questions that are posted I will answer, then the students really engage and the thing works very well. So there's kind of 3 ways that it's being used. So basically, this is what we've seen before. So there is one channel for a program unit, and that's the kind of default setup that most academics have requested. Another way that it can be used is to have multiple channels for a unit. So there is a program unit around organised crime and democracy in Italy, where the students are divided up into mafiosa clans, and basically they could use the channel for discussion within the clan and to kind of plan how they're going to approach the role play. So the middle photograph there shows the app being used in a seminar where 4 clans were in attendance, and it was kind of being used as a newsfeed as well. So there was one student who was designated the journalist, and the journalist would be typing in news items such as so-and-so is having an affair with somebody else, or this politician is doing something. And the purpose of the seminar was to vote for a particular politician. And I didn't actually attend this session, but I've seen some videos of it, and the students were completely invested in it. It kind of took over their lives for a kind of week or 2. So that seemed to be quite a successful way to go forward. And here there's a quote from the convener of that unit, who obviously thought it was a success. And I think what it does, it brings, she can do things that she can't do in Moodle. Okay, the other way that we've been using it is, so rather than for a program unit, we can use it for an entire student cohort, and we've tried this for 2 degrees. So this is for pharmacy and pharmacology, both for year 1. So the idea of this is that the academic rep asks the students to post up any issues that they may be having with their degree course. And again, this has worked quite well. But what's kind of interesting is that this is something that has been getting quite a bit of attention, and I have actually got some funding for it now, some additional funding. So I've picked up some funding for 5 projects with students as co-designers. And one of those projects is an SSLC app. And I've currently got 3 students working for me on this. So this guy called Toby, he sent me an email, said, can I come and work for you for nothing for 15 hours a week? So I said, yeah, okay then. This was probably about 4 weeks ago. And in the interim, I've actually picked up some funding so I can now actually pay for him. And what's been amazing is that he has actually picked up the programming skills that are required. And I've now given him the master code, the source code for the app, and he is developing the app in association with Harry and Harris, who are academic reps. They're in the School of Management, they're dead keen, and what they are doing is developing the specification for the SSLC app with academic reps, with members of the student union executive, and actually with senior members of academic staff. So that's kind of is what's happening now, and I hope to release an app for the SSLC to be tried across the university in a few months. Some of the features that have been requested. Well, I must say, to begin with, this was a big experiment. I didn't know how it was going to turn out. So I just thought, well, I'll just make it and actually see what happens. But I didn't invest a lot of my time in putting all these extra features in, because I thought, well, if it doesn't work, this is wasted time. So now that it has worked, I have been asked to actually put in some additional features, such as push notifications, so that when an academic posts a reply to a student, then the students will get a post notification on their device. And the other two things that seem to be top of the agenda are the facility to insert images into each of the posts, and also to actually embed the app inside our VLE. And this is also very doable using a technology called LTI, which hopefully you would be familiar with. So that's kind of next on the list of things to do. Okay, so up until 2 weeks ago, I didn't really know what it was that I had built here. I knew that it was kind of popular with students, it was kind of social media-y, but 2 weeks ago, my work was included an ALTC, the winter conference, a presentation there, and it was included in a presentation on social learning networks. So I'm just very happy that I've now got a kind of pigeonhole, a category that I can put the app into. But there are other fairly similar apps to mine, which are available commercially. So basically, you've got Piazza, Learnium, Edmodo. And I think this is an area to watch, because I think that basically what it's about is providing a private social media experience. Some other related areas in terms of tech are enterprise social networks. So I don't know if you're familiar with those, but you've probably heard of Yammer and Slack before. So it could be that these could be leveraged to actually do a similar thing. So I think the whole area of these types of things is an area to watch out for the future. And the way to think of a social learning network is really just another one of the services that your IT department provides. So it's something that sits alongside the VLE, the timetable, lecture capture systems, etc. Okay, so I've almost finished now, but one thing that came out, and it comes out continuously, is that the single most important thing for students is that the application is effortless. And so basically, if you compare study space with say a forum on your VLE, then it's much easier for the student to actually engage with it. They just get their phone out, press a button, and they're instantly into the forum. Whereas if you compare that with the distance they have to travel to get into a similar thing on Moodle, they get their phone out, they have to open the browser, they have to go to the website, they have to find the course, they have to find the unit. Once they're in there, they have to find the Moodle. And by that stage, they've kind of given up, really. They're not interested. So ease of use is the single most important factor that I found for students. Okay, so that's me just about done. It'd be really interesting actually. Could you put your hand up if you think that you could use study space or something like it at your institution? Okay, so that's roughly about 2/3 of you. Thank you for that. So that's me done. Thank you very much for listening. If you're interested to connect, please do so. I am actually currently trying to produce a version that could be used outside of my university. As I said, there's an FE college that are really dead keen. I am kind of going through the technical kind of hurdles and I am almost there now. So it could be in a year's time and study space could be available to you. I don't know how. It may be me with a spin-off company or I may decide to go open source, but that's kind of the direction that I'm going. Okay, thank you for listening.